welcome to a civil discourse. Of course, we have with us today Pastor Robert Rolak.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, we have, I should know your name, Myron, come on. Myron Taylor, who actually is an investment manager.
Wow.
We've known each other for over 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Although I haven't seen you in over 10 years.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
And we have Mike Jenkins, who happens to be one of our producers. And myself, Ruben. Well, we have a lot to talk about, but I thought we would start with something that is very much out there. Everybody's talking about it. We're talking about cultural appropriation, or is it misappropriation? I'm not quite sure. You do know a little bit about it, that concept. What are people talking about? What does that mean?
Well, to me, Corporal, the misappropriation of using the term, and what is our diversity? I mean, for example, I'm a white person. Okay, that's great, but should I be able to, if I grew my hair really long, should I be able to put, dreadlocks in if I wanted to? It might look funny on me, but if I like it, should I be able to do it? If somebody is African American and they want to make their hair blonde, should they be able to do it? Why are these? Is it really inappropriate to do that? That's to me what it is. It's taking, oh, you shouldn't do that because you're not part of that heritage.
Okay.
And Robert, we discussed a little bit also the idea of, say, a fashion designer coming up with a line of clothing based or inspired by American Indian clothing. And again, somebody out there, I don't know who it is, probably an idiot, is calling this cultural misappropriation. What do you think?
Wow.
Yeah, well,
So basically what they're saying is that it's politically incorrect or not politically correct.
I suppose that's
It's
the
not
idea.
socially acceptable. Is that a law? I mean, because we had the conversation earlier about the football teams.
Right.
So if it's against the law or if it's against cultural law to have an Indian line or African American line, what does that really mean? I mean, so we got the NFL coming out with different teams, and they can be considered. Some can be considered cultural, like the Washington Redskins. So is that politically correct? Nobody. I've never heard anybody argue about that.
Well, like
So-
we have the Kansas City Chiefs now
True.
that are going to
Exactly.
be changing
Yeah,
because of all
changing
the
their
pressure.
names.
Oh, they are
should-
changing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, why should they have to change it? I mean, to me, it's just not right. It's not offensive. To me, you're talking about warriors. You're talking about bravery, not something that was disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. Why is it now inappropriate?
I would think it would be an honor.
I would say this. It feels like because we've had so many wrongdoings so far in this country that it feels like we've at a point or at a period where there's a lot of making up for the wrongdoings. So a lot of things that are maybe not as much inappropriate are now deemed more inappropriate than they should be. So because we want to be in the middle of the spectrum, but for so long we've been so far to the right of the spectrum. So now as we even out, we're going to go a little further to the left, as we bounce back and forth until we find that right place. So now we're at a point where sensitivity is high.
Yeah.
Sensitivity is high
That's
to
good.
everything because for so long sensitivity has never been high. It's always been brushed to the side. So now as the younger generation come up, this seems to be more of a sensitive generation and things like that kind of mean more. Just, names and like I remember back in the day or when I was growing up, they used to say that words words don't hurt.
Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will
Never hurt me. Correct, right?
Mhm.
But the problem, I used to just think that was just the most idiotic thing in the world because words are the strongest things that we have.
Wow.
The world is made up. The laws, everything that we follow are made up of just words on paper. So how do you tell me that words are nothing? Words are the strongest things that we have. Words move nations, move countries, start movements.
Here's another one for you. Word created the world. God
Exactly.
said, and it was.
Exactly.
Wow,
So
You're right.
when people sometimes downplay, or they just think a chief or a redskin, for a lot of the time we're going to have to go through this rotation of where we weren't so sensitive before in the beginning of our country, and now we're going to go to more of a sensitive time. And so through the years, we balance out.
So let me ask you this then, or combination of both there. So can we not be sensitive at the same time and say, okay, and let's go back to Kansas City Chiefs now here. Can we say is that we recognize the sensitivity, we understand that some people might be offended by it, but we look at it as we see the Chiefs as being warriors. We're not out there being racist in any way, shape, or form. We understand the sensitivity of that. Can you understand now us that we don't agree with that? Let us, as we have been for years, continue on as we are a franchise and a team. We're very racially integrated. If you look at our football players, with football players from all different kind of cultures, right? So why not continue on?
Now,
You see what I'm saying?
why not allow it to kind of? I get exactly what your point of you're saying, and I think it comes back to the saying that when it was started, I don't think that sensitivity was there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they talked to anybody. I think it was more of just an enclosed in-house thing. So now, as things develop over the years, it's more or less, all right, now you're able to talk to us. You're finally able to get opinions. Like, there's so many surveys that are done now where I don't think in 1962 there was that many surveys done, So it's kind of the balance, the back and the forth where I guess you crossed the line so long ago, but you didn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're kind of realizing where we're like, oh man, but how far do we really have to go back? But yes, you still kind of have to keep going. You still have to keep going, and so no one is offended.
Well, there's never a bad time to correct a wrong.
True. Yes.
Okay. So, but with that said, the Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
So they're changing their
Kansas City
name.
Chiefs.
What is wrong with that?
Yeah.
There's nothing offensive about that. Now, if you're gonna think about the Redskins, that might be a little bit more offensive because I suppose when you go back in history, in the good old days where American Indians were still around, as a bigger nation than they are now.
Native American.
I guess they were called Redskins because of their skin. Now, was that intended to be an offensive term? I'm not quite sure. However, there have been polls, I don't know if you've read about it, where most American Indians do not object to the Redskins name on the team. I think it's mostly...
And in fact, when the team name came up, the trying to say here, the Indians actually helped create the logo.
Oh.
The logo represents the chief. It represents warrior. It represents leadership. And then this is one of those things where you've taken something, a symbol. Certain people have taken a symbol and turned it into a negative instead of understanding and researching the history behind it and understanding how did they get to this point? Where did this symbol come from? Is it really meant to be a derogatory or racist kind of symbol?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
See what I'm saying?
Interpretation.
Everybody judges immediately. Today's society, we're so quick to judge, but we don't go back and research.
Well, I would say this. I think that today's society sees the intentions behind it. But I think we're all have the same bubble, but we all feel different parts of the bubble. We all have different skill fronts, and a lot of times we're unable to see the view from the other person's bubble. Now, yes, I can see I see your point completely, but I see their point too. And to try to play the devil's advocate, it's more like the spirit of it, the warrior behind it is is good, but it's more or less. To them, they may see it as, okay, the white man coming, taking another thing of us and monetizing it.
Yeah, exploitation.
And that's how they can see it, because I can look at it like this. Today, they can open up another Negro League. And that could be probably fine. But I bet you there'll be a number of people who would have a problem with that, because it would just be, okay, the white man owning another Negro League. It's like,
what if it wasn't an African American, or what if it was somebody from India?
But it's not. If a lot of more African Americans or Spanish people ran America, things would be different. But they don't. If more business owners, or there were more diverse owners of clubs, billionaires, basketball, football, things would be different. But there isn't. So
not right now.
Right now it is just. It could be, okay, the white man, is taking the Chiefs logo and they're monetizing it and they're making money off it, and they're giving this all, well, this is, the reputation of the soldier or the warrior, but they don't see that, because all they see is the billions of dollars that's made off of that chief, where they're not making that money. They did it for more of a soul, a spiritual type purpose. Yeah. They could have monetized it, but they didn't. So it's more of a, just looking at them side-eyed, like, okay, yeah, but you're making money off of it. So it's not 100% from your heart, because you're making money.
So bring that back to what you were saying, the line of clothing.
Yes.
From an Indian perspective, or any other culture for that matter. I guess the difference is what now is that it's an individual as opposed to a group of people. Because last I heard, I know the Constitution states that we have a right of expression, freedom of speech, and all those things. I've seen some people. I was just watching The Four the other day, and it was a Caucasian singer. I forgot her name. Had dreads. She they looked weight on her.
Well, that's a big one. Dreadlocks on white people. Or Chinese people. There's actually a basketball player from is the Brooklyn Nets, and his name is Jeremy Lin. I guess he's American with some Chinese ethnic background, and he decided to wear dreadlocks. And then he himself apologized to the African American community, because he thought he was misappropriating that cultural thing. I didn't hear an African American person, man or woman, saying, "Hey, this is wrong." All I see is that this guy himself is apologizing. For what?
Probably how he thought, maybe, I guess how he may have felt people with maybe his culture.
Yeah,
maybe his culture maybe put some pressure on him. Maybe he was one of the Caucasians. But you can't do that. You're going to offend somebody.
And that's absolutely true.
I'm gonna have to stop eating Chinese food because I might be misappropriating Chinese cuisine. And let me ask you, we as men and women in this country, number one, it's a huge pot of different ethnicity,
and that was the intent,
right? And what do we wear? Mostly every day, we wear clothing that comes from Paris. Are we misappropriating Parisian clothing? You as an African American, should you be wearing just African stuff?
How about that?
I like to wear that myself.
I like to wear it too, but it doesn't look good on me. I've tried it.
I tell you,
so the whole point is diverse anyway. What we wear is diverse, because again, like you said, I do have some African attire at home.
Please, don't take your pants out.
No. I'm not talking about,
in your closet.
In the bush. I'm not talking about when they were running around with this little strap one right here.
No, you're talking about the beautiful,
kente cloth or different cloths. But then I also understand a friend of mine, Israel Kason, led me to realize that even though our ancestors, everyone in here can go back to your ancestors come from Africa, whether we know or not. Everybody came from Africa.
Absolutely.
But however, we're not African. I found out that I'm really not African American. I'm American.
There you go.
You're American. You might be from Italy, but you're not Italian American or Panamanian American because you were born here. We were made in America. Isn't that something? So we should be able to, there should be I think America has its own style. American clothing, whether it be, because it might be, this is just my point of view. We should be able to wear anything we want to wear because the melting pot says that you have a right to express yourself any kind of way you want. You have a right to freedom of speech. That therefore we should have a right to wear what we want to wear. I mean, nobody's telling the African American, or should I say the brown skinned Americans, not to straighten your hair. I mean, we were doing that back in the 50s and 60s.
There you go.
Everybody wanted to bleach and straighten their hair. Why? Because we wanted to look more acceptable. We thought it would make us more acceptable. But then when we adopted the Black Power, right on, Black is Beautiful movement, when we had to realize every color is beautiful.
Go ahead, you want to say.
So I think it's more of a reality versus perception.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the example of reality changes quickly, but perception doesn't. So the reality that we live in is a certain way. Is a certain where you can be white and you can dress black. You can be black and you can dress white. You can really dress however you want to. But the problem is the people who make up the perception don't change as fast as the people who do reality. And I'll give you the example, just like our legal system, just like things with like marijuana and stuff like that, or just like, civil rights and things where the reality changed. Where me and you sitting here, we could be friends, we can talk. But the people who made the decision of perception didn't change as fast. Mm-hmm. So the reality of how you dress and who dresses and how you look, you can change, and it's changed, and it's different now. But the people who make the determination if it's okay have not. Mm-hmm. So for me and my generation, if you want to sag your pants, it is okay. But there's a much older generation that have made laws in cities to where you can't sag your pants.
Well, when you say sag, you're talking about the
hanging down,
hanging your pants more off your belt.
But I gotta say,
it's a thing is that
the key word there is but. I don't want to see.
well, okay. For when it comes to not breaking any laws or say dressing a certain way, or for like if you're a white person and you want to listen to hip hop music and you want to dress like a black person, that's fine.
Sure.
In reality, that's fine. You come around me, you come around anybody who lives in your reality and your boat, that's fine. But there's an older generation of people who construct that perception. Well, that will not be okay.
You're right.
Laws don't change until the older generation who are stubborn die off.
That's true.
Period.
Marijuana
will come legal in the next 5 years. Why? Because of the people who don't want it. I mean, federally, because the 60, 70-year-old men who don't want it will be dead. And they'll be filled with new 40, 50-year-old people who will be okay with that. Things change as the older people who determine what things are go off. So
okay, but let's clarify. You're talking about the older, stubborn, stupid, ignorant.
But they're the ones who make the laws.
I don't think Robert and I are.
But they're the ones who determine what fashion is. They determine what is beautiful. They determine what all that.
It's not so much ignorant and stupid as it is that they've been brought up in a way. Like, for example, you see this. I lived in a small town. Small town had an opportunity to grow. Humongous growth for the young people, for the people who were in their 30s coming in, the older people who were on the town council. Most of them somewhere between 60 and 80. No, we can't change our town. No, that is not going to happen here.
Exactly.
So what happened? They went to the next town down. Guess what happened there? Growth.
Exactly.
Then the people in our town was like, see what happened? Well, we still don't care. And it wasn't until they died off. Well, it's too late.
It's
Everywhere around them now is
Exactly.
growing, but they're not. The town fell to despair. It needs a lot of infrastructure. They don't have the money. So it's the same exact thing like you're talking about. The difference in people seeing as drugs, what's appropriate, what's not. Unfortunately, it is. Time changes everything,
Mhm.
including people dying off.
And reality changes with that time,
Yes.
but the perception, like when people get older, they get more stubborn, more harder in their ways, and that perception doesn't change as fast.
No,
So
Right,
only
right,
it's going to change until that higher level, that older level of people aren't in that position of power anymore. And
Yes.
that's with laws, that's with fashion,
That's with
family. For
That's with
example, let's do
families.
family. I mean, we all have grandparents. We all have parents. I can tell you right now. I know my grandparents, my grandmother, God bless her soul. I love her to death. You know, she's passed away. My grandfather, they're all stubborn. They all get in a certain age. They're just set in their ways, and they're just not going to change.
Exactly.
You know. Yeah.
But people do change.
But people do change over time. They
You
do
know,
change.
And if we
Or
look
can
around, we
Or
see a
can
lot of
change.
we see a lot of people of a certain age. Certainly, we're not talking about 40s. You know, we see people who are in their 50s, in their 60s, who through the years have always been at the head of progress and leading. So those people will never change because they are open-minded. Like, for instance, Mary, I see you, I can see you in 20 years changing with the times.
Yes,
I don't see you getting stuck in some old tradition, in some old.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Is that, I mean,
Because your change is equivalent, I believe, to growth.
I mean, it's one thing I like that we do now as millennials is everybody has cell phone walking computers. We're constantly update. But it's the fact that when given new information, you can change your opinion. And things change slowly because people's opinion gets so stubborn that even with new information, they don't want to change their opinion because they're just stuck in that way. And that's why civil rights took so long. Because even though we could sit here and we could be friends, there were so many people who were isolated from us who weren't going to change their opinion. And until they got out of their positions of power, that's when everything started to change. So as we go, we have to be able to take the information that we get every day, but you have to constantly update yourself to know that it's okay.
Wow.
You are not a
That's
hypocrite if you were given new information tomorrow and you wake up feeling different. That's what you do. That's what you have to do.
And with the new information, you have to realize, just because you had an opinion yesterday doesn't mean you can't say, hey, today, you know what? I was wrong. It's okay. So many people have so much pride
They want to stick
that they
by
can't
it.
admit when they're wrong.
They want to stick by
You
it.
know, it's just like, you know, when we see people who really mess up, Hollywood. I mean, how many actors have really messed up? Like Mel Gibson, right? And he really messed up. But for several years, he finally came back. We're a forgiving society. As long as you apologize, we will forgive. And as long as you try to do better, we will help you and push you
I
along.
like that.
But
exactly.
if you don't fall on your sword and admit that you're wrong, you are now putting yourself in the graces of people who will not forgive you, and you're determining where your life's going to go.
And just to give I like to correlate things. To give a small correlation to that. Today's example, the Cavaliers, right?
Oh yeah.
They had a bad trade early in this year. They came back. They admitted that they were wrong, and what did they do? They pretty much did another trade and got rid of their whole team. They accepted their blame, and they said, okay, this is how we're going to move on from there. But think how many teams will make a bad trade and keep those players for so long and let them bring them down and bring them down.
Like the Redskins?
Exactly. Or I'm sorry about that, but I'm an investment guy, so I see a lot of people, they buy into stocks, they buy into things, and they just have a weird euphoria about things that is not backed by anything, but they don't change as new information comes along. They kind of keep that belief that, oh, this is going to happen, whatever. If it's a bad car, they're in a bad relationship, it's just this is going to happen, even though new information is telling them something different.
But are we too forgiving? I mean, there's nothing wrong with forgiving.
I don't think we're too forgiving.
We forgave Clinton for his
No, I didn't forgive
missteps.
Clinton.
You didn't forget? Oh, so
I didn't forgive him. First of all,
Trump
sort of gave us a half apology.
Trump people have already forgiven him for this.
Well, that's going to take a few
foreign
more
thing.
years. It's going to take a few more years.
Also, I don't know.
That's going to take a few more
You know,
years.
what I have seen in
We don't
this
want to
country.
start, we don't want to get on the Trump train.
But
we'd be
hold
all
on.
right.
But to
That
answer
would be
your
a
question, I
train
don't
wreck.
think we're too forgiving. If you look at this country as a whole, even let's go back to World War II. Okay, look at what we did. All right, we helped rebuild Europe. We didn't have to. They could have struggled on their own. But America helped rebuild what later on, even though we were involved later, we helped rebuild them. We helped make them strong. We annihilated Japan. We did the right thing. We helped rebuild them. That's who we are as a nation because we're so multicultural and diverse that we care about everybody in the world.
Right.
So much of the world and so much what's politicized about Americans are is that we don't care about the rest of the world. That's not true because if that's the case, why do so many people want to come here? You know, so I think no, it's not that we're not too forgiving.
Well, you know, as a nation, as a people,
Mhm.
I do believe in the American people.
Mhm.
I don't think I believe so much in the governments that we have had. You know, that there's a government. It's like a business. Sometimes we go to war because it is the convenient thing to do. Sometimes we help other people because there's money behind it. You know, American people I respect. I mean, I'm part of this group now. But governments, not so much. You know,
no, you're governments.
we have
governments
helped.
have come and go. Look at civilization. Most of the civilizations that have been destroyed because of government, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it truly is. Empires have been overtaken because of government. People are fighting bravery. We have to do this. We must conquer. Why? Because of government. United States, it's the same thing. We have interjected our nose, sometimes good, sometimes bad, in other nations' businesses, where we should have just stayed out.
I have a list over 100 times.
I know. People say, "Oh, then you're being insensitive because you're not helping. You're only taking care of America." Sometimes we should just take care of America. We should let those nations play out their own wars, their own civil wars within their own countries, and whatever happens, happens. The people live there. The people will make a decision on what to do. They're either going to stand up and fight, or they're going to lay down and let somebody take them over. And that's where I think our government just puts their nose into too much, everywhere in the world.
Well, I think going back to what you said, somebody said something about them having an agenda, how we want to help people, but oftentimes helping people with what are we going to get out of the deal. They may not articulate that, but I believe there's an agenda for gain. I mean, even I know we're not going back too far in history, but you just go right back to Columbus. I mean, we're learning in history class that Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? But how can you discover something when people are already here? You know, and they call. I'm gonna bounce around a little bit, and I'm gonna make my point. How can again, they come and discover some people already here, but we're called. When I say we're, people who are in the lower income, area, whether it be some are not working, unemployment, people on the corners, drug addicts, drug dealers, white, black, because drugs has no color. We're called thugs, but they came over and stole a country. Who's I know I'm kind of going on thing. Who's the real thug here? So my whole point is they came over here and they established a government inside somebody else's country. Kick them out, kill them off, and if you look at, I know we don't want to get into politics, but if you look at the Senate, Congress, it's the same people. You made an excellent point. Everything needs to be updated. Why not the government? My iPhone, every time I look at it, there's a little thing when they say update. I'm like, just update the thing. Yeah, update again. But the founding fathers, thank God for the founding fathers. I mean, thank God. I thank God for America. I'm not saying I don't want to be here. I love this country. But if we're still living, the Constitution is, I'm sure, has been immutable, hasn't changed, but maybe it need to be updated. There have been a lot of amendments, right?
Okay, question for everybody. May I have a word?